Hi, and welcome to this webinar. This is the first webinar I've ever done on the Why Us statement, the Why Us essays. I apparently have a lot to say about this because I wrote 20 pages on it. I wrote this PDF, which I'll share snippets from, called The Complete Guide to the Why Us Essay. And I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But I have so much to say about this. I was talking to my brother and I was like, I should just do a webinar. And he's like, let's do it. So here we are. Thanks for joining. Let's jump right in. I want to share with you some great YS statements. This one that I'm going to share first was from a student who was accepted at Northwestern ED last year. Quick tip, if you're working on your statements right now and you've probably heard from your ED or EA school. If you're a junior though, make sure, and your senior friends can tell you this, make sure you're working on your essays for the other schools, just in case you don't get accepted. And if you're listening on this call and you're a senior, you maybe didn't get accepted already to your ED or EA schools. So could your Why Us essay have mattered? I think so. I think these really matter. So let's look at a couple of great ones. Why Northwestern? And this is not by students who are on this call right now. We'll look at those in a few minutes. This is students who I've worked with in the past. On my visit to Evanston, my tour guide walked backwards facing me the entire time. This struck me as symbolic of Northwestern. Interesting. I love that at the beginning of this, there's kind of like an interesting mystery. Also, I love that this mystery only takes 22 words to set up because we've got 300. So if you're looking for a clever opening, here's my first tip. Make it short. Okay, sometimes students spend way too much time, like a third of the essay, just basically doing the setup. 22 words is all it takes here. Firstly, while walking backwards, my guide made a special effort to connect with me. And I too shall reach out to my communities at Northwestern. See how the metaphor just really quick turns? Again, I'm just going to note each time how succinctly you can do this, 25 words. Because, and I'm going to emphasize this because so many of these are so short. As a member of the undergraduate chemistry team, I will join the Chemistry Council and connect with local students to mentor green chemistry projects for their schools, expanding my work with High School Chem Club. Notice how efficient. She's already getting Northwestern-related details into the first 100 words. As a member of the undergraduate chemistry team, I will join the Chemistry Council, now you can tell what her major was going to be, and connect with local students to mentor green chemistry projects for their school. So here's one way that she's already going to get involved. She's going to major in chemistry. That's already clear from elsewhere in her application. Expanding on my work with High School Chem Club. My guide also walked without seeing, venturing into the unknown. So again, some metaphoric, what's the word? Overtones, I guess, here. I shall complement my primary training in chemistry with the Institute for Sustainability and Energy's certificate program. Now, this is key. And for everyone who's working on a YS statement, ask yourself, is there something I'm just going to highlight this, is there something in your YS essay that is unique to the school in the first 100 words? Okay, that's a huge tip. Is there something that is unique to the school in the first 100 words? The Institute for Sustainability and Energy Certificate Program probably isn't going to be at a lot of other schools. Maybe a couple others, but probably not. And this is the kind of thing that can really jump off the page and get the reader to go, OMG, this student has really, A, done her research, and B, has found something really specific that we offer that other schools don't necessarily offer. So it's not a situation where the student could really easily, sort of pop out this thing and put in something else. Now, maybe that's true. So why? To study disciplines unknown to the core science curriculum that nonetheless impact science research. Environmental law and policy interests me since law and policy govern the limitations with which chemists design products. So what you'll notice in this example and others that I'll share here is that each sentence doesn't just emphasize what the school offers, it gives a reason. Why is that useful to you or interesting to you? Or how will that help make you a more well-rounded, more well-informed human being? The pending Personal Care Products Safety Act will require safety assessments of ingredients, thereby expanding innovative research to transform the cosmetics industry. ISEN also supports multidiscipline research, and I hope to research toxicology of ingredients. So notice specifically, here's what I hope to research. Finally, my guide took us on detours into Norris. Can you hear the metaphor already? An empty classroom, and even to the Lakeville. I too hope to take inspiring digressions. The amazing theater community at Northwestern excites me the most. Now, this is a student who had theater in her resume and her activities list. Is I've been a performer since preschool, studying ballet, singing, and theater. Acting on stage is the most exhilarating experience I know, and working with the theater tech staff on stage makeup is a great way to build teamwork and make new friends. I hope to get off my main academic track often, enroll in acting for non-majors and stage makeup courses, and join the many student theater groups. And by the way, there are many student theater groups at Northwestern. 4 years at Northwestern will seem too brief. So, there's some good takeaways there. I just want to highlight the 3 that I mentioned. 1, this note that I put in here. Are you putting something unique to the school in the first 100 words? Are you grabbing their attention with that? 2, are you giving a sense in almost every sentence of not only what the school has to offer, but how it will support you? So let's see. Let me see a quick example of that. Now here, she's not doing it in the same sentence. She's kind of going back and forth. I'll give you an example. Here's the example. I'll join the chemistry council. Why? Because she wants to mentor green chemistry projects, expanding on her work. So make sure, this is the tip for this, make sure us isn't just the school. It's the school, I'll just put it in brackets, plus you. That makes sense? So sometimes think about, like, they think us is like, why us? Like, we are this school. Why do you want to be a part of us? But it's us. Think of it as the school plus you. That's the us. Okay? I think that's all I want to highlight. Those are the 2 things I want to highlight from this one. Let's look at the next one. NYU is global, urban, inspired, smart, connected, and bold. What can NYU offer you? And what can you offer NYU? These prompts are getting more and more, I don't want to say sophisticated, but more and more, they're being more and more, I would say, frustrated. Look at the next part of this actual NYU YS prompt. Be creative, people. Tell us what gets you up in the morning and what gets you up at night. You can kind of hear, I don't know, for me, I'm hearing like frustration of getting the same things year after year. Don't tell us what you think we want to hear. This is the actual prompt. Tell us who you are, what you'll do, and how you'll make us proud. Show us what you've got and have some fun with it. I've underlined that. So here's another great why us statement. I may have been born in California, but I'm a New Yorker at heart. From walking the streets of Forest Hills where my dad grew up, to eating lobster rolls at Smorgasburg, from visiting Yankee Stadium's Monument Park, to enjoying the Halal Guys grub, my roots, my passions are all NYC. But if there's one thing that connects me to New York more than anything, it's sports. My room's a shrine to the captain, Derek Jeter, and my Google profile picture is of Knicks rookie Kristaps Porzingis. Yeah, really. Whether it's factoids, history, uniforms, stadiums, or fantasy leagues, I just can't get enough of the world of sports, and NYC is its capital. Now, you might think, well, this guy is born to go to school in New York. He's born for NYU. Great. If you can get me to feel in the first couple paragraphs that that's true, you've done a good job. And this was a student who not at the start wasn't quite sure. Well, why NYU? How do I? Well, he found connections. 1, there were all these sort of family connections to New York. And 2, sports, which is his thing, as you'll see in a second. NYU offers the opportunity to develop the skills I need in economics, business, and media to one day work in the front office of a professional sports team. This is a thesis. Ask yourself, do I have a thesis? Now, do you absolutely need one? The first essay above, it was a little bit less clear what the thesis was, but here the thesis is super clear, that NYU offers the skills, the opportunities to develop the skills in econ, business, and media to, look how specific, work in the front office of a professional sports team. So it's like, here's what I want to be, and here are the 3 ways that NYU is going to help. Through econ, through business, and media. And that, my friends, maps out the entire essay, as you'll see. The Institute for Sports Management, Media, and Business affords the perfect marriage of a strong academic foundation and an experiential learning education. While the core curriculum will instruct me on the intricacies of the industry, from finance and development to licensing and merchandising, a concentration in sports media will further my understanding of defining the success of a sports franchise, promoting effective media distribution, and perfecting the packaging of sports and entertainment events. This dude sounds like he's in it, right? What I want to point out here is look how specific. So another student might say the core curriculum will teach me what I need to know about sports. Super general. And by the way, most students, when they start writing these, the openings are pretty general, or the first draft is pretty general. but look how specific. Instruct me on the intricacies of the industry from finance and development to licensing and merchandising. So see how specific? I'm going to put it as an exclamation point, not a question, because it's not a question. Will further my understanding of defining the success of a sports franchise, promoting effective media distribution, and perfecting the packaging of sports and into entertainment events. Real specific. Okay, I get a sense that this student really understands what he wants out of his education at NYU. And notice how the structure is. Okay, there's econ. I'm also interested in pursuing a concentration in sports law or organizational management, which would teach me about the complexities of contract negotiations, collective bargaining, and the dynamics of a professional sports organization. Outside the classroom, and I like this structure. I like that he starts in the classroom and then goes out. Outside the classroom, I see myself attending the Arthur Miller Public Dialogues and the Distinguished Lecture Series to gain insight into sports as an evolving and globalized industry. And as a diehard Yankees, Knicks, and Giants fan, now, how do you write a great YS statement? I should have shown you his other one where he didn't just happen to be a diehard fan of all three sports based in New York. But anyway, he was, and he put that in because it's relevant to him. I'd relish the opportunity to intern at one of those organizations. Finally, NYU's Sports and Society program is the perfect environment to learn more about how the sports industry has a major impact on all areas of society. So it's bigger than just sports, whether it's breaking down racial barriers, curbing violence on and off the field, or the metamorphosis of sports into a multi-billion-dollar entertainment industry. So much going on here. Do you get that? So I want to point this out, that you can kind of go through and bold and you can kind of see what the capitalized things are. These are the NYU specific things. And one thing you can do is you can kind of look in your essay and go, okay, do I have lots of NYU specific things? I mean, there are so many here. Basically everything that's capitalized is, NYU related. But then next to it, there's a really specific thing, a specific skill, a specific piece of knowledge that the student is going to be able to that he's going to use in his own growth and development. Attending the program's various events will also provide insight into the ethical and philosophical inner workings of the industry. Maybe I'll even get to meet the Porzingis at one. He's referring to Porzingis, his favorite player. So, for a kid whose family brainwashed him to be the ultimate NYC sports fan, what better place to obtain my education than NYU? And maybe it's a question, but I like that he ends it with a period. You get it? I mean, the overall thing is like, sell us. Here's the question to ask. Did you sell us on the notion that this school is the perfect place for you? And I get that it is. There are all these reasons. Up here, sure, she hasn't been a Northwestern fan since birth. But there's enough in here that I get a sense of, oh, wow, this is a really good fit. From all the science stuff to all the art stuff. I mean, and if you know Northwestern, it's a pretty good match. I read this and I go, this is a match. Now, how do you know if it's a match or not? You got to get to know the school. And my friend Michelle says this, Michelle Myers says, you got to click deep in the website. Okay. One more, and then we'll get into some of your statements. So basically the way it'll work today is I'm going to give you this third great example. I'll go into some of the examples that you've sent in, and if we've got some time at the end, then I'll take some others from the crowd. I'll let you guys post some of your YS essays. Don't do it yet on the other doc. And if you've got questions or comments, go ahead and post them in the chat box. Let me see if any questions have come in. Jorge says, thanks for the webinar. You're welcome. What do you do when they specifically ask for your relevant academics and activities? Things that appear in other parts of the application in the YS essay? Jorge, connect it always to something that adds more information. So if they ask for your relevant academics and activities, give them something as you're talking about the relevant class or the relevant activity that gives a little bit more than has already been given in the activities list. That may be kind of obvious. Maybe you can show me an example of what you mean in a little bit. Here's another one. Jacqueline Novogratz used financial investments and Wall Street as a vehicle to help others. It's a shame she's less well known than Bertie Madoff. By majoring in econ and minoring in philosophy at USC's Dornsife College, I hope to gain the knowledge and perspectives to become a socially conscientious investment banker. So, again, here's the thesis, right? By studying this and this, here's what I want to be: a socially conscientious investment banker. To be successful, I'll need knowledge of how to raise capital via the Wall Street Network. Courses such as financial markets will allow me to examine how Wall Street functions within the American economy. Okay, so specific thing, financial markets. So what? How will it help? To examine how Wall Street functions within the American economy, while Intro to Econometrics will help me develop quantitative analysis skills for evaluating the market. Jamie's asking, how specific is specific? Like this specific, Jamie, is what I'd say. So that you couldn't, I guess you could conceivably switch this out for a class at another school. Jamie says, for example, many colleges have similar programs dedicated to undergrad research. Would mentioning such a program be seen as generic? Well, there's a kind of like, Jamie, there's a kind of like tricking that you have to do. And by tricking, I mean like, you have to kind of fall in love with the school and like actually legit make the case for why USC or whatever school you're writing it for is the number one school. And you got to like, I don't know, like emotionally like lean into and convince yourself that yes, this is the school for you. And then you got to turn around and do it for another school. Okay. What you'll find though, sometimes once you kind of articulate these for your reasons is that, yeah, maybe you could use this for another class available at another school. Notice that this course, Intro to Econometrics, is above and beyond like Intro to Econ. Okay. By meaning like Intro to like macroeconomics would probably be available at any school. Introduction to Econometrics, maybe not so much. So find more advanced courses for your examples. Those that may not be at every school. I'll need a global perspective to understand how Wall Street impacts the broader world economy. And I'm very interested in behavioral economics. And a question just came in. Laura says, I'm not really sure what I want to major in. How do I make my YS essay specific to the school? Laura, notice the phrasing here. So I'm very interested in behavioral economics. So this is a student who, by the way, wasn't exactly 100% sure what he wanted to do. So there are two answers that I have to this question, Laura. Number one is you can just kind of pick a placeholder, as it was for this student. So he ended up getting into USC, but he ended up going to a different school, to WashU. And he didn't actually, he's not going to, at this point, I don't think, be an investment banker. What choosing a particular career can help you do is to think about that career as here's another tip. So think of every career as being interdisciplinary. So what I mean by this is when you pick something like socially conscientious investment banking, like there are different elements to that. Like if you're going to be a writer, you don't just study writing, you study psychology. And if you're going to be a fiction writer, you study, culture, and you study religions of the world. So the value, Laura, of choosing, and you don't have to do this, but this is one option. The value of picking a really specific career is that it can help you when you start to think about the different things that go into making you really good at that thing. It can give you like the separate paragraphs. But if you don't want to pick something, you can just pick 3 different things that you're interested in studying. And I'm picking 3 as an example because it kind of splits into like 3 paragraphs. So you can pick, but I would say you don't have to commit to a major. You can just say, I'm very interested in blank, blank, and blank. And I believe X school is the best place for me to study these things. Now, you'll want to kind of pick certain things if you can that the school does really well. Anyway, so you don't have to commit to a major. I'll need a global perspective to understand how Wall Street impacts the broader world economy, and I'm very interested in behavioral economics. By pairing courses such as the world economy and international finance with neuroeconomics and behavioral economics, so a lot of specific courses, I hope to, here's the good specific reason, not only discover the economic reasoning that motivates people, but also how those individual actions can accumulate to have effects on a macroeconomic scale. Super smart, right? I also love big questions. Why are people attracted to money in the first place? Does capitalism foster immorality? Issues I hope to tackle through USC's thematic option in a course like Culture and Values. So notice, this is kind of weird, right? He's like, this guy's going to be an investment banker, and yet here he is talking about culture and values and philosophy courses. But again, if you're thinking about whatever your major is as multidisciplinary, and this is good advice, even if you're like laser sharp focused on being a biomedical engineer, what other elements are going to make you a better engineer? Certainly studying courses outside of engineering. I hope to confront the universal problems that I may experience throughout my life, so that if I come close to making a harmful decision, I can step back and existentially evaluate my choices. As a Trojan, I hope to explore my existing passions while creating new ones. A little bit general there on the ending. I like it. I tend to prefer something, like this for the ending. A kid who family brainwashed him to be the ultimate NYC sports fan. What better place to obtain my education at NYU? Let's look at this one. 4 years at Northwestern will seem too brief. Watch, 4 years at Harvard will seem too brief, 4 years at Pomona will seem too brief, and that's what she ended up doing. That, I think that seems kind of general, but again, it's kind of like once you've got enough specific reasons in here, I don't think the reader minds too much if you've got something that feels like it could be, you could replace it with a different school's name. Okay, let me take some questions and then I'll get into your examples, your essays. Should I quote from the school website? Great question, Himong. No. For these essays, no. Because it could be that the person you're writing to that will be reading your essay actually wrote some of the copy for the website. So don't quote from the school website. I think it shows a lack of creativity. Hi, does it matter if the extracurricular does not support the choice? For highly selective schools, I'm not sure, NP, what you mean by that. The extracurricular does not support the choice. Like the extracurricular activity that you've participated in or that you want to explore at the school. Let me know what you mean there and I'll answer your question. It was an either or question, NP. Let me know which you're talking about. Okay, so there's a physics summer program that asks why the program is for you. Okay, Jorge, I'm not sure what your question is, so go ahead and give me the rest of the question. Okay, for someone who knows exactly what they want to do, how do I avoid talking about my career goals in too many of my supplemental essays? I don't want to bore the admissions staff. Yeah, I guess, Idabel, the question I would ask is how do you avoid talking about it? It would depend on the school. Here's what I'd say is, Idabel, is basically spend just the first part talking about your career goal. Like notice how quickly in both of these essays it moves on from the career goal. Like here it is. Here's the career goal. Boom. And then you move into the specifics that the school provides and how those will help you meet this career goal. Okay. Or in this other one, that's the next essay. In this one, here's the career goal, then boom, get right into how the school is going to support those, that goal. Okay. That's my answer to that one. Jorge, how do you make this different from other parts of the application? Well, it's going to be very different from other parts of the application because you've got basically a bunch of reasons like why you want to attend this school that have maybe nothing to do with anything else that's been. In fact, my challenge would be, Jorge, how would you in the world work some of this stuff into your application? I guess that would be tougher to do. So how do you make this different from other parts of the application? If this stuff is in other parts of the application, it maybe shouldn't be. If this is in your main statement, I guess I would use that, and it may be too late. I hope you're not a senior, but I would be writing using that Common App main statement section to be doing some different stuff. For these essays, should we quote from the website, or does that put me at a disadvantage? Yeah, don't quote from the website. Okay. How do I structure the essay so it's more about me being a good fit for the school rather than what the school offers? Take a look at the structure of this. So in this first paragraph, and this is, let's say, for a 250 word or 350 word or 300 word or 150 word essay, get your thesis in there pretty quick. Like, give us a sense of if you know what you want to study and that you believe that the school is the right place, like really early. Like, look how many words this takes. 50 words. We've got one sentence, kind of like the clever opening, which is 23 words. In that example above, it's like 22 words. The NYU one, the intro is a little bit longer. And I think it's okay because it's really awesome and it's giving tons of like NYU specific reasons. And by the way, does this pass my little test that I made up of, are there specific only things you can only find at NYU? Now, of course, if you went to another New York school, you'd find some of these things, but you're getting a few of these in the first 100 words, And so how do you structure it so it's more about me being a good fit for the school than what the school offers? Make sure that for every single course or program, that by the end of the sentence you've connected it back to yourself. Okay. Terry asks, what about weaving in a school's theme, such as Northwestern's McCormick School of Engineering being whole brain? Maybe, sometimes that sounds like counselor speak, like it sounds like a counselor is writing it or a parent is, and they're trying to kind of tell, NYU asks specifically, like, don't try and tell us, don't, like, where is it? Don't try and tell us what you think we want to hear. Sometimes I read those, and the way they resonate for me personally is I'm like, oh, they're trying to spout back to us this whole brain thing. Like the student is trying to almost like prove, like, I get it. I would say, if anything, make it sort of in passing, like something that's almost casually mentioned, you know? Um, and by that, I mean, I wouldn't make the whole essay about the whole brain unless that's something that you've already like studied and maybe you've written about for your IB extended essay. Like I got I got whole brain, I've been studying that for years, given my, IB extended essay, here's what I, that I know that what that means. I would say weave it in subtly, sort of like a mention of it would be fine. And by a mention of it, I mean like as part of a sentence where you're also giving something specific about the school and something specific about yourself. So you guys can kind of hear I'm saying that a lot now. It's like almost in every sentence, and it's not happening in every sentence in these great examples, but just consider as a sort of structuring device. Every time you mention them, find a way to connect that back to you. Himang says, I'm completely blank with Dartmouth's, the places you go, Dr. Seuss. How should I start? Do you have any examples? So Himang, I don't think that's a why us essay. And right here today, we're just focused on the why us essay. That'd be from like a Dartmouth specific webinar, which I could do, but I'm just happen to not be doing today. Jamie asks, should I talk about a club I'd like to join, even if it seems completely out of left field from info on the application, like trying out theater with zero experience? Maybe. I would say, Jamie, it depends on how long the essay is and have you covered all your other bases? And by other bases, I mean, that in terms of ranking, like top 10 things that you could say about a particular school. So Jamie, I'm just curious, like what school are you thinking of? And are there other things specific to you that you would want to get in that would rank higher than you saying, I want to try out theater? So I would say probably you can kind of hear my preference, I think, in the way I'm saying it is like, I would make sure that you've got everything else covered. Now, if you've got one of those, if it's like a Penn essay or Cornell where you've got like 650 words or like, 500 words, like Wisconsin, then maybe. I don't have any extracurricular related to econ. Does it matter if I say I want to study econ? Does it matter if I say I want to study econ? Well, I wouldn't say that's a concern of the why us essay in particular. That might be something that you want to address somewhere in the application. I mean, you could also do that in the additional info section. So, for example, that might be kind of a red flag. And if that's not addressed in your main statement, they might read that wondering somewhere in your application, could you say why you want to study econ in the first place? And that's something certainly you could do in your why us statement. You could certainly make that argument. I'd be curious, NP, why you want to study econ. So make sure that, I think it would be good to work that in somewhere. Carolyn asks, some of the why schools are much shorter, like 50 or 100 words, which I think makes it much more difficult. Totally. What do you suggest with essays of that length? Carolyn, I'd say as much as possible, find something super specific that is particular to the school. And it's hard with a school like, Yale, for example, or MIT. It's like, well, because MIT, But as much as possible, and for example, for a school like MIT, I've seen certain students do it where they found something specific or particular that the school offers and connected it back to themselves. And in 50 words, you can do it like once or twice, and that's about it. So I think it's still possible, but I'd say rather than keeping general, I mean, what I'm looking for as I scan those essays is I'm looking for stuff in capital letters. Like, is there a particular program and is the reason clearly connected back to the student? And then that's really all that you have time for. There's no time really for a clever intro. Okay. So it's been about 30 minutes on that. That's about what I expected. Let's click over to yours and take a look. Let's jump right in. College of Worcester. And are you on the call? And I'm not sure to pronounce your name, so maybe you could help me. Is it Jiang Pham or Gyang Pham? Let me know if you're on the call. If you're not on the call, I might skip down to Ali. Actually, I'll just stay with this because it's right here in front of me. Actually, I do want to work with somebody who's already on the call. Ali, are you on the call? I don't think you are. I think you said you were going to be busy. Venetius, are you on the call? No? Okay, let's try the next one. Whose is this? I don't know whose this is, but if this is your essay, are you on the call? No? Huang, are you on the call? Nobody's on the call. Okay, interesting. Well, all right, I'll do a couple of these. Oh, Huang is here. Cool. All right, let's go with yours. Awesome. That's what Huang wrote. Huang is here. Okay, here we go. How did you learn about Vassar, and what aspect of our college do you find appealing? Okay, now Huang, you can kind of see what my preferences are and what I'm suggesting. So as you're reading this now, you might be sort of reading it with my eyes, and you might expect some of the stuff I'm going to say. So let's see how this goes. Hopefully maybe your tastes are changing or developing based on some of the suggestions I've made. So Huang, I'll be asking you to also be, giving your thoughts. So stay close by to your chat box. And if you just joined us on the call, I just pasted the doc that we'll be using. Okay, how'd you learn about Vassar, and what aspect of our college do you find most appealing? Usually, my preference is to get through this as quickly as we can, because this is just kind of like something that you can usually answer in like a sentence or two, and then move on to, this is the important part. So this is like the crux of this essay. I first learned about Vassar from a College Confidential post. 2 students wrote that Vassar has a unique artsy vibe. And you might put this in quotes, unique artsy vibe, if that's, actually what the students said. Whoops. As a student with dedicated interest in the arts, I was intrigued. From the YouTube channels I watched and students I spoke to, I found that Vassar's community is incredibly lively, welcoming, and diverse. I fell in love with its intimate feel. Awesome. Okay. What I like about this, Huang, is that you've given like a profession of love, we'll call it. This is like, X school, a kind of X school is perfect for me. Is right for me, And I fell in love, and different people do this in different ways, but I really like that you did this. And this is kind of a thesis. Like, you haven't gotten into the specifics yet, but that this is the perfect school for you is kind of a thesis. So I really love that. Vassar has the 2 most important things I look for in a college. Now, everyone else, as you're listening to this, ask yourself, does it feel like a match? Like, when you read this, does it feel like Huang is meant for Vassar and Vassar is meant for Huang? Okay, 2 most important things I look for in a college. First, it has a friendly and accepting community. I would thrive in a cooperative environment where people support one another's ideas and ambitions. Vassar is very diverse, and I'll be able to find a group of people with different interests and learn from them. Okay, here's the test for this. Watch this. USC has important things. Friendly and accepting community. What's another school off the top of my head? Chapman, what school would not say they have a friendly and accepting community? So my criticism for this is, couldn't this be said for any school? Okay. So then my rewrite for this, or my suggestion, Huang, would be, and I'll change this back to Vassar, is, can you prove this? And by prove it, it's like, well, how do you prove that it's friendly and accepting? Examples, evidence. Okay. So something concrete. It could be something that, if you got a chance to visit, that you saw, or it could be that, you read on Unigo, which is a great website for researching this stuff, that a certain student said this, So I would thrive in a cooperative environment where people support one another's ideas and ambitions. Yeah, this to me sounds a little bit general. Like, this could be about most any school. Vassar is very diverse. Okay. Evidence? Like, is there a particular, when you say diverse, what does that mean? Is it 35% first generation and 24% international? I don't think that's true for Vassar. But what does that mean for you? I'll be able to find a group of people with different interests and learn from them. Now, this is kind of general too. And again, it's kind of like, you could switch this out. I'm using USC a lot because that was one of the example essays. But, Reed is very diverse. What makes Vassar's diversity different? And I'm going to put diversity in quotes because, what is Vassar's brand of diversity different, unusual, and especially, I'm going to put these little asterisks around it, perfect for asterisk again, you, okay? Because that's what this essay needs to do. Just because Vassar's diverse doesn't make it perfect for you. It kind of makes it generally, why is diversity important to you? Are you somebody why do you value diversity? Here's a chance. And so someone asked a minute ago, how do I make it about me? Here's where you can make it about you. Make it about you. Now, this is generally about humans. Like we as all humans want to find a group of people with different interests. What about you? Remember this. I'll make this a separate comment. Remember that you're still kind of selling yourself, Juan. That sounds like I called you Juan. Huang. Remember, you're still selling yourself to the school. And selling sounds weird. So what I mean by that is like making the case that you are someone that they would want to have on campus. Okay. And this goes, obviously, as I'm giving him these notes, I'm giving these notes to everybody who's on this call. You're still making the case that you are someone awesome, someone that they really want there. Okay. That your love of diversity makes me love you more. Okay. So that's cool. But then what is it about? Like get more specific. I think that's what I'm saying is like, get more specific. And that's usually, that's basically the note that I give 100 times when I'm going through these with students is like, get more specific, get more specific. Okay. Second reason I choose Vassar is the academics. A little bit general. I want to learn about performing arts and education. You could do that at any school. Vassar's flexible requirements allow me to pursue my interests. Hoping you're going to get really specific in a second. I think the lack of core curriculum, but that's saying what it doesn't have, shows a dedicated commitment to liberal arts. It allows me the freedom and immense responsibility to pursue the fields I'm most interested in. Okay, so overall, this paragraph is a little bit more specific because it talks about that it has flexible requirements. So that's cool. But I would say, what are you going to do with this? Okay, what I want to say to you, Huang, is I want you to go shopping. And by that, I mean like class shopping. I want you to click deep in Vassar's website and talk about the awesome classes that you're going to take that Vassar and no other school offers. And, get in there. Okay. And not get into the school. Yes, hopefully, but talk them up. Say, this is the specific thing. Here's an example that I like to give is like when you're writing a why us statement, it doesn't necessarily help to say, imagine that you're sitting across the table from someone that you're on like a third date with. Okay. And the person across the table says, why do you like me? Why us? Okay. And you say, well, you're the academics, something kind of general, right? It's like, well, you're hot, well, okay. Or you're good looking, right? It's kind of general. But the specifics of this, well, there's this specific thing you did. There's a specific way that you like tuck your hair back, or remember this one time when you like, that piece of that bottle fell out and you like stooped down and picked it up, or like you helped that kid, like specific examples. And that connects to my value of like helping the world, So I'm giving kind of silly examples off the cuff. But my point here is that the more specific you can get with these, the more you're likely to to ping something for the reader. By ping, I mean like awaken and aliven something emotionally for the reader. If it's general, chances are they're just going to kind of blow past it. And if you're like, well, what do you mean? What kind of examples? Well, the examples that I gave in the first part, just how specific this language is, I think is better. So notice the specific program, or, in this case, the specific major, or in this case, the specific classes will all lead you to specific stuff that you can say. Help me develop quantitative analysis skills for evaluating the market. Okay. So specificity begets specificity. That's a quote that I just made up. Specificity begets, in other words, the more specific you are with the class, the more specific you'll be able to be with your reasons for wanting the class. Otherwise, if your reasons feel kind of general here, it's because the reasons are kind of general around the school. That's maybe the best tip that I can give you so far on this webinar. Last but not least, I want to immerse myself in Vassar's arts environment. See, even that is kind of general because Vassar's arts environment, you can could be any school's arts environment. So pretty general. I fell in love with Vassar College Choir after watching YouTube videos of the performances and the interview Making a Joyful Noise with Ms. Christine Hollow, where she said, we just have a lot of people who really like to sing. I'd audition for the Vassar College Choir to work with her and the talented students who love singing as much as I do. Okay, make your insights insightful. And that sounds redundant, right? What is insight? Insight for me is saying something unexpected. Okay. When you say I loved this video, my thought is, oh, you probably want to join the choir. And then when you say I would audition for the choir to work with her and the students who love singing as much as I do, I kind of go, yeah, I know. That's what I would have guessed you would say. Okay. This is what I'd have guessed you'd said. Okay. So go 1 yard deeper. Delve 1 yard below their minds, as Hamlet says. Okay. What could you say here that could help this pop? It could be like a passionate connection to music, or is there something particular about their performances and their group that connects with you? I don't know. You'd have to do some more research on the Vassar College Choir, or get this, contact someone from the Vassar College Choir and say, hey, could I just email you and just chat for a few minutes about what your experience has been like? Those kinds of conversations can really give you some great information. And say, when I contacted so-and-so from the Vassar College Choir, I learned X, Y, and Z. Now, does that seem kind of like a pain for them? Yeah, but honestly, 10 minutes of their time, I found students to be like pretty receptive of prospective students asking them questions. I love to design an independent major that focuses on child psychology and education. Cool. I'm looking to see if that's set up. It's not, but that's okay. Some classes related to these two subjects already caught my attention. I'm expecting you to say which ones. So which classes? So you can trim this and you can rewrite this 2 sentences to say, I'd love to design an independent major that focuses on this and this, and a course like X would help me learn Y. So a course like X would help me learn Y. Specifics. You kind of see what the trend of my notes are here, right, Juan? Many performing arts courses excite me too. The Art of Acting Comedy is the exact kind of course I want to take. Now, hopefully you're going to say something unexpected here. Well, that encourages students to commit fully on stage, to be themselves and less self-conscious. Okay. I want to take this course. Now, my curiosity is like, why is that so important to you? Has that been difficult for you in the past? Or do you see yourself, what is it about committing fully on stage that you see as important in your life? Or in, studying child psychology and education? Like, if part of your goal is to work with children and educating them, how could committing fully on stage connect back to child psychology, if that's a potential field you're going to go into? So the question that I'm going to ask is, so what? I'm like, why is this meaningful to you? Now you may be thinking, well, you're asking me to put a lot of stuff in, and my word limit is tight. Well, a lot of this stuff you can be cut. Once you get the specifics, choose your favorite specifics. So you can see in a lot of these places, Wong, I've just basically said, get more specific, get more specific. Well, some of these places you'll be able to find a specific course or a specific program, and other times you're not going to be able to, and you'll probably end up cutting some of these things. I want to take this course to experience the power of comedy, which I've been very interested in since I was young. A little bit general. And it doesn't really tell me like why you'll be a good fit for Vassar. So at the end of this, and I'm going to ask a question, I'll ask it of you, Huang. Do you feel like it's really clear why Vassar is a perfect fit for you, or why you are a perfect fit for Vassar? I don't know. What do you think, Huang? I'll just pause for a second. A comment comes in from Yen that said, oh my God, your analogy to the date thing with the YS essay is too true and accurate. Good. I think that's good. Huang, what do you think? How do you score yourself? 10 being like that NYU essay of like, oh my gosh, this guy is perfect for NYU. And by the way, he didn't end up going to NYU. Or 0, like it's totally not a match. You should totally swipe left. Yes, I just made a Tinder reference. Okay. Huang says, haha, yeah, it's not clear at all. Okay. So how can we make it clear? You've got, maybe 8 or 10 notes here, my suggestions, Huang, but you'll start to see that I'm talking about getting super specific. Okay. And that's going to mean clicking deeper. Here's my question for you, Huang, is how important is Vassar to you? Just like real talk, like 10 being like dream school, 0 being like, I'm only applying there because my parents are making me. And I want you guys, as you're listening, to guess. What would you guess based on this essay? Huang just answered me. 0, Huang's parents are insisting that Huang applies. Or 10, dream school. What would you guess? 0 to 10, real quick. Huang, I'm just going to read you what people are saying. 5, 6, 3, 6, 3, 4, 7, 4, 8, 4. So we've got an average of like maybe right around 5. Guess what Huang said? 10. It's Huang's dream school. We don't know it yet. Okay. So, but you've got a path here, Huang. You've got several paths. Okay. So again, specific. Do you have a sense, Huang? I'm just curious of what you want to study. We'll spend just another 2 minutes with Huang. Isn't that interesting? Carolyn says. It is interesting. And I'm making up this test, Carolyn, the 0 to 10 thing. I just made that up right now. Huang says, I want to study education. Cool. Okay. So is Vassar a good school for studying education? I'm asking you, Huang. What do you know about Vassar and education? And by the way, if there are any counselors or other students on the call who know about, I don't happen to know if Vassar is a great school for education or not. Can anybody tell me? Now, what I would hope, by the way, once we get to the end of this essay is that I would know why it's such a great school for education. Stacy says, I went to Vassar and I was a teacher for 20 years. Great. Here's somebody who can help. Stacy, is Vassar a good school for education? If so, why? Like, what specifically about Vassar makes it a great school for education? Now, Huang, to go back to something that I said while you're thinking about this and typing this, and while maybe you and Stacy are typing, and I'll say this kind of for everybody. If you're going to focus on education, ask yourself, well, what are the elements? Like, let's pick 3 or 4 elements that are going to make you a great teacher. And think of education, and particularly child psychology and education, like what different things will you need to study in order to be great at, teaching children? Okay. Arts, absolutely. There's definitely an arts connection because by studying the art of acting comedy, you can learn to commit fully on stage, which will totally connect back to your major. Carolyn says, it's super and well known for encouraging diversity. Okay, so if it is diversity, if Vassar is a super diverse campus, how is that going to... So what I think we could do maybe here is, if you wanted to, Huang, you could kind of create a new umbrella about studying education and child psychology, and Vassar is the perfect place for this. Can you make that argument? Can you make that your thesis? Stacy says, look into the on-campus preschool. I was a psych major. You couldn't major in education when I attended, but lots of education classes prepare me to immediately go on to graduate school. Cool. Great tip. Thanks, Stacy. So my suggestion, Huang, is if you know what you want to study, make the case that here's what I want to study, and here Vassar is the perfect place. And this other stuff, that you've mentioned in terms of, let's say diversity, the flexible requirements, the arts, all of these things are going to help you be a better teacher. In short, okay? I'm assuming you want to become a teacher, assuming that's why you're studying education. I'm not sure if there are other reasons, but there might be other reasons. Okay, we've spent about 15 minutes, so we're going to move on to the next one. Thanks, Huang. Any final thoughts from you or questions before we move on? Or any, from the peanut gallery, any thoughts or final questions? And as Huang or you guys are answering, is there anybody else who's submitted a YS essay who's on this doc that's shown up for the call? If not, I'll just go to the top. Huang says, thank you so much. You are so welcome. Idabelle says, I'm also applying to Vassar. This was very helpful. I'm going to steal all of Huang's ideas. No, I'm just kidding. Idabelle didn't say that. Tons of choir groups. Look into all of them, says Stacy. Also, Powerhouse Theater. Super diverse and very open, accepting of genders and various sexuality. Cool. Powerhouse Theater, Huang. Hidemi asks, before we get on to the next example, how do you write an essay for college that's not your first option? Okay, Hidemi, I wrote a post on this. So if you Google how to write a YS essay for a backup school, or it's how to write a YS essay for a safety school. 2 phrases that I don't like to use. I don't like to say backup or safety because who wants to have to go to their backup or safety school? But I put it that way because that's what I imagine that people would Google. You'll see a whole post on this. Let's see. Venetius is asking, how do I get access to this doc? I'm going to paste it right now. It's good to have you. We're going to go over your essay now. Let's see. Let me just paste it again in the chat box. And tell me if I'm not pronouncing your name right. Venetius, is that correct? That's a pretty cool name. I'll assume I am. Venetius, you're up. I think Venetius is getting onto the doc here. Yeah, it's good. Okay, cool. Okay, okay. So, this is for UPenn. How will you explore your academic and intellectual interests? The University of Pennsylvania. Sometimes there's some stuff in here that you got to look at. Given the specific undergraduate school to which you're applying. So we got to make sure that that's in there. Okay. For students applying to the coordinated dual degree programs, please answer this question in regards to your single degree school choice. Interest in coordinated dual degree programs will be addressed through those program specific essays. By the way, guys, this is a tip for other schools. if you're doing some kind of dual degree program or you're doing a double major, anything you can get that's going to be more specific and it's going to help you stand out, awesome. Go for it, rock it. Because again, we're looking for specific something that's going to jump this out of all the other general why us essays. Okay. Here's the beginning. So what we're looking for, let's just jump in. Venetius, here we go. With my dad and my brother both being engineers, they constantly and involuntarily show me what happens the head of a math science master. Ranging from simple things such as using a broomstick to carry the groceries, plastic bags, or teaching me how integrals and derivatives relates all the way to complex things such as building an entire house's electrical system by ourselves or making cachaca, Brazilian spirit, at home from everyday instruments, my dad and my brother have truly engaged me to seek efficiency, hashtag broomstick, to like math, hashtag calculus, to work on long-term projects, planning well and setting goals are as important as acting, hashtag building a house, and to act resourcefully. Holy cow, that's one of the longest sentences I've ever seen in an essay. That's like 88 words. Congratulations. I totally get lost when I read this. So, and I'm still not clear yet on, I think what you're talking about is you're giving some context for how you've grown up with a dad and a brother who are interested in engineering. Since early age, I've been fascinated by both their ways to think and buy cars. Therefore, my plan was to become a mechanical engineer. Okay, Venetius, this opening paragraph needs a little bit of work. And as you probably saw how I kind of got lost in that, here's a tip for everybody. I recommend reading your Why Us essays, and by the way, all of your other essays, aloud, just as I've done, and ask yourself, does it make sense? Can I read this to somebody sitting across the table from me? And will they look at me unblinkingly and go and nod and be like, yep, not literally unblinkingly. But what I get so far is that you're interested. So there's something about dad and something about brother being engineers. Okay. And I get, you want to be a mechanical engineer, but I get totally lost in here. And they're cars too, cars. Okay. So how efficient, I should say how succinct could you be in here? Like, what's the gist of this? My dad and my brother are engineers, and I've always been in love with cars. So I always want to become a mechanical engineer, right? So something like that. This other stuff in here, maybe it's useful, maybe not. Like maybe for Cornell, you got 650 words, so we could get into this a little bit, some of these details, but I kind of lose the thread. And the thing that I just said to you, by the way, Venetius, the super short version of this, of like dad and brother are both engineers, and I've always loved cars, so I want to become a mechanical engineer. That might be like the last sentence of this first paragraph. So Venetius just made a comment in the chat box. It's to describe the way they think. So efficiency, I see that. Is this answering the question? How will you explore your intellectual and academic interests at the University of Pennsylvania? I'm interested, as I said, my preference is for getting to UPenn as quickly as we can. Now, this doesn't have to be the way that it goes. But I guess if I would ask you to, I would like if we were sitting next to each other, I'd say, okay, Venetius, like, what is the main thing you want them to get from this? And what I got from what you just said is like, there's a topic where it's like how they think, but I would ask, what's the gist of this in one sentence? Can you summarize this in one sentence? That will help you cut this because I think there are a lot of words. That's my first note. But what I do have that you want to be a mechanical engineer, which is good. Moving on. However, my mom started her physical therapy undergraduate program when I was 12, and since our house is far from the city, I had to stay with her most days after school to come back home. Is this relevant to why UPenn? It might be a little bit too tangential. Therefore, I watched anatomy classes with her and even spent afternoons at hospitals while she was doing internships. As a result of living part of my teenage in a healthcare setting and actually enjoying it, my passion for cars was surpassed by my medical passion. Okay, got it. So same question. Could you be more succinct with this? So now I see what you're doing. Interest in mechanical engineering and interest in medicine. Now here's what I would suggest. And you're about to do this. But I would say do this in one sentence and then do this in one sentence. Like X, A and B helped me lead to mechanical engineer, but C led me to a passion for medicine. So the course that perfectly merges the engineer's mental development with that cool touch of a medical context while letting me seek innovations of technology is the one and only biomedical engineering and applied sciences. Okay, I get it. Could you set this up with just 2 to 3 sentences above? And you might already actually have 2 to 3 sentences, but let's say set this up in just, I want to say like 100 words, maybe 75 words. Okay, right now it's at about 217. Okay, so I want to get, this inspired me to do this, mechanical engineer, and this inspired me to do medicine. This can be clarified, I think. The engineer's mental development and the cool touch of a medical context, both a little bit unclear. Okay, so what I want to say here is another note that I give a ton: clarify, simplify. Okay. And where is the best place in the world to pursue this major? UPenn, of course. Not only because it has a world-class bioengineering program, I would just say, I want to study biomedical engineering, and UPenn is the perfect place. Okay? So, in applied sciences, and I would rewrite this, and UPenn is something like, and UPenn is the perfect place. Your version of this. A note just came in. Tegan is saying that, Tegan is saying that this seems like an essay that was written for another essay prompt. So, interesting feedback. Okay, so essentially what I'm asking for here, Vinicius, is A and B inspired me to become a mechanical engineer, and C inspired my interest in medicine. Biomedical engineering is the perfect marriage, and I believe UPenn is the perfect place. You see how efficient I was? That's almost how fast I want you to be. Like, I want this first paragraph to be like this long. Maybe this long. That's about 80 words. Okay? Not only because it has a world-class bioengineering program and unique extracurricular opportunities, but also due to its extremely renowned business program. You'll see how these two relate soon. Cut all this. What an honor to be in the same institution where both the illustrious studied. I would cut all this. Why? Because I think that what we need, once you've said UPenn is the perfect place, first of all, it might help you to have a map. So one thing that I've suggested for these other essays is, can you make it interdisciplinary? So biomedical engineering. Can you pick, just to make it easier on yourself, Vinicius? Here's an action item. What 3 elements, not elements, what 3 fields, what 3, I'm going to put things, could you study that would make you the word I'm looking for is kick-ass, but I'm going to say really great biomedical engineer. Okay? And Vinicius, if you want to give us those, what are they? And in fact, Peanut Gallery, if you want to help us tell us what these 3 things are, you could. Okay? Let me actually give you a quick example of this. So here, let's see. Here, let me reference here's my Why Us guide. The guide to the Why Us essay. Let me show you how to do this. There are a lot of tips in here. It's got all the resources for finding out about a particular school. Okay. Check out this Why Us essay from Michigan. Mark Twain was a steamboat pilot. Actually, let me just share it with you so you can really see it. Okay. Mark Twain was a steamboat pilot. Agatha Christie was a nurse. Robert Frost was a light bulb filament changer. Do you know those people? They're all writers. Notice they all did something else. The best writers don't only write beautifully, but also integrate their personal experiences and knowledge outside the world of literature. By combining the study of literature, media, and perhaps law, I believe the University of Michigan will provide the education necessary for me to evolve as a journalist. So you see how those 3 things really map out? So, because basically the next paragraph is about studying literature. Here are some literature courses. The next paragraph is on media. And the next paragraph is on law. So by looking at those separate, those as separate pieces of becoming a great writer, this student was able to say, hey, here are the 3 things that I need in order to become great at writing, in this case. Okay? So that's what I might suggest for you, Vinicius, is what 3 things could you study that would make you a really great biomedical engineer? And I'd be curious, Peanut Gallery, folks listening on the call, if you've got any ideas for Vinicius, what would those 3 aspects be? Now, Vinicius, you're probably going to know better than any of us, but the reason I want you to map these out is because that's going to help you The reason is because is redundant. I realize that. The reason I would say do that is that it's going to help you structure the rest of your essay. And I don't think this will need, you'll necessarily need all this stuff because it's kind of general stuff that you can cover later. The business program, you can cover that later. And these people where you want to study, you're going to want to put that in later if you can support those with a specific reason why you would want to study with those particular people or where they studied. Okay, cool. So some thoughts are coming in from the Peanut Gallery. Engineering, medicine, business. Interesting. Thank you, Carolyn. Business. Now, is UPenn, do they have business courses? For sure. And studying business, could that help you become a better biomedical engineer? Yeah. Now, can you take those courses? You got to do that research to find out. Interpersonal communication. Venetia says, got it. Okay, cool. We got it. Something landed. Calculus is another one. Yeah. So math. I mean, it could be math, and then in a larger sense, we've got a whole math paragraph. Okay, let's see what else we got. Such as these two Nobel laureates, I also do want to make a great impact in the world. A little bit general, either by encouraging the youth to learn engineering through Engineers Without Borders program. By the way, this is going to be at every school. Or by directly aiding underserved communities through the Global Biomedical Service Program. Okay, cool. Find out, is this particular to UPenn? If yes, great, but put it later. Why? My suggestion is to put academics first. Why? I don't know. I just have this feeling that when you're talking about stuff in the classroom first, then when we move outside the classroom, it'll be a little bit better to sort of we start in close up and then we kind of zoom back and zoom out. So I would say, don't make this your first reason. And this kind of breaks that rule that I was saying, Venetius, is within your first 100 words, have something that's super specific to UPenn. I don't know that this is going to be super specific to UPenn. And it's, or if it's it doesn't have to be the first 100 words, but it's the first reason. So it's kind of like our first impression. Why do you want to go to UPenn? Because you've got this thing, but it's because you've got brown hair. But it's well, a lot of people have brown hair. Or even by impacting the UPenn community itself through the Wharton Undergraduate Healthcare Club and inciting